What's up, guys? I am so excited to bring this new Ibis Ripmo review to you and publish it here on the YouTube channel. Man, when the first Ripmo came out, it like revolutionized what a mid-travel trail bike that was a 29er, what that type of bike could do. I mean, that Ripmo climbed better than anything else in the category. It descended so well. It still had really good trail manners. It was just a really special, neat bike. Then they came out with the second generation, that V2, and now here we have the V3, the third generation of the Ibis Ripmo with this incredible DW Link suspension. It is now 150 millimeters in the rear with a Fox Flodex shock and a Fox 36 up front at 160 millimeters of travel, which is exciting to talk about and worth noting because at some point along the way, the second generation, the V2 Ripmo, Ibis, for whatever reason, put a Fox 38 on the front and a Float just the X2 shock out back, which is a bit much for what this bike is. It's a 64.5-degree head tube angle, so it's a little bit slacker than the V2, the second generation Ripmo, and still, 76.5-degree seat tube angle on this size medium Ripmo. But the sizing's all new too. They've got a small and a medium. This is the medium. They've got an extra medium, okay, and then a large and then an extra large. And so the extra medium and up are all available with a 29er front and rear wheel size. And the small and the medium will ship with a 27.5 wheel size rear. There's a little flip chip right here. You just move that bolt over into the 27.5 setting or the 29er setting. This is a medium. Mine did ship as a mullet, a mixed wheel, 27 in the rear and 29 in the front. But I got my bike from Salt Cycles, and so they knew I was probably going to want this bike as a 29er. That's how most people are going to get this bike. It seems like that's what it's always been, is a 29er. So I thought, you know what? I first want to spend time on the new Ripmo as a full 29er. So they custom built me a pair of these Salt Cycle wheels, 29er front and rear, and they're very lightweight. And they moved that bolt to the 29er setting, and there you go. I got my Ripmo as a 29er. I will also try it as a mullet with a mixed wheel, but I first wanted to spend time on it as a 29er because that's how the Ripmo's always been. And I will just tell you, after having this bike at my house for a couple weeks, I've also had the new Ripley at my house for a couple weeks, the 5th generation Ripley, and I can tell you that this Ripmo is the best Ripmo that there has ever been. It's better than the second and the first generation before it. It climbs incredibly well. But there's something new about the Ripmo, and we're going to talk about that in today's video. First, come on along a little ride with me and Tyler today, and Tyler's on the Ripley today, and I'm on the Ripmo, and it's just a great time together. Climbing's good, but that's like not why you come to see the Ripmo video. Like, the Ripmo's always been one of the better climbing bikes in the category, and descending is what I'm interested in because it no longer has the Fox 38 on it, no longer has that big Fox X2 shock out back. So, see what it goes like. The Ripmo feels super smooth, like the rear end is like crazy supportive and good with small bump, like just like butter out there. It's crazy. To describe this trail, it's like the highest speed trail in my area. Lots of like little 8-inch to like 1.5 big like little rocky sections and drops and stuff. And just high speed. And the Ripmo, man, it feels great. Wow, yeah. That rear end is just like butter. It's amazing. I feel like Ibis did something maybe a little different I mean, I don't know, but it feels different than the previous Ripmo. The rear end does. Not sure what it is. Wow. Lots of braking bumps through this section. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Man, that's a lot of fun. The Ripmo has always been probably the best climber in this category. You know, the pivot switchblade is also this incredibly well climbing bike, very efficient feeling. So I think of climbing in two categories, like how efficient is it, and then how well does it do in low traction scenarios. And the Ripmo scores well on both ends. So it climbs very well for a bike with 150 millimeters of travel and a 160 fork. But descending, there's something different about the DW Link suspension. I don't know what it is. I haven't talked to the engineers or the developers at Ibis, but there's something that feels different about this rear end than the previous Ripmos. It feels smoother, especially over like chattery small bump sections. Think braking bumps or just you know, very small bumps along the trail. It doesn't feel like it skips across the top as much as the old Ripmos used to. That also gives the Ripmo a very lively and poppy character to it. It is more damp than the other Ripmos I've ridden in the past. It feels kind of a little bit more like a Santa Cruz bike, kind of a little bit more like a Hightower in the rear end, a little bit. It still has that lively, you know, Ripmo DNA in it, and it's still a very lively bike. But yeah, I would say it's the smoothest Ripmo ever, which for me, I love that. The smoother the mid to long travel 29er bikes get, the better. I picked this bike up from Salt Cycles. I know that they have Ripmos and the new Ripleys in stock. The nice thing about ordering from them is they can do for you what they've done for me, which is custom build it. So this came originally as an XT build. They swapped out some of the XT parts for XTR parts to lighten it up a little bit, put some carbon cranks on it. But the big deal is they put these custom wheels on there for me. So if you're a size smaller medium like I am, but you want to stick with a 29er, well, you can just order the bike. It'll be shipped to you know, from Ibis to Salt Cycles as a mixed wheel, as a mullet bike, but they'll build it up 29er for you and get it ready for you. Swapped out to these MV carbon bars that I put on all my bikes, and it's just a great way to buy a bike. They're the nicest, kindest guys, great bike shop. They've got them in stock. Give them a call. Their number's listed here. I would say, you know, if you watched my Ripley review, if you haven't, I can link it right up here, but if you watched my Ripley review, I was a little disappointed that the Ripley had changed so much from the previous Ripley. It was this kind of short, snappy little short travel bike. And I was a little bummed when I first rode it the first week on the Ripley. But I can tell you, after spending time on this new Ripmo, I have a lot more newfound appreciation for the new Ripley, and here's why. The Ripmo was always a bike I'd see people on that sometimes it was too much bike for the rider. And I think that Ibis knew that a lot of people were stuck in between the old Ripley and the Ripmo. They wanted a burlier trail bike like the Ripmo, but they probably didn't need all that bike. That's where the new Ripley, the 5th generation Ripley, comes in. And it fills a role that I didn't really know or want to admit existed. And so after riding, spending so much time on the Ripmo the last week, I've ridden, so today's Friday, I've ridden this Ripmo almost every day this week except for one day I rode the Ripley. And then there was days where Tyler and I on Wednesday, and then again this morning, Tyler and I swapped back and forth between the Ripmo and the Ripley. And I gotta tell you, that Ripley, it's a lot of bike. It's not that different than the Ripmo. That rear end on the Ripley feels very smooth as well, just like this Ripmo is. So the Ripley is a very smooth, I would call the new DW Link Ripmo and Ripley rear ends just like buttery smooth. Not quite as bottomless feeling as a Santa Cruz bike, but close, but definitely more smooth over choppy sections of trail. More smooth than any bike I can think of in recent memory. It's a really neat experience. It's a new experience for the Ripmo. The Ripmo's always been this really lively, poppy feeling bike, and it still is. And you can crank that rebound up a little bit more if you need it to be more poppy. But I found myself, enjoying how smooth this bike is. I'm 5'8" on a size medium, and it feels perfect. I think it's a 456 millimeter reach on a size medium. You can click the link down below and go over to all the numbers. The bike feels well balanced. It feels like the best Ripmo I've ever ridden. It's really, really good. And I have greater respect after riding this and going back to the Ripley. That Ripley's really good. Man, that's going to be a tough choice for people to decide which one they are, the Ripley or the Ripmo. If you're really going to go smash stuff and send stuff at very high speeds, this bike will feel very comfortable. I feel like this bike, I don't know if it has a higher top end than the previous Ripmo, if it can go faster and be more comfortable. Maybe so. I'd have to ride them back to back to know for sure. I rode this back to back with Tyler this week, and he rode the Yeti SB 140, and we swapped back between the 140 lunch ride and this Ripmo. And this actually did feel a little smoother, and it didn't hang up quite as much as the SB 140, which is weird because I never really felt like the SB 140 ever got hung up on stuff, but you did notice it when you swap back onto the Ripmo. I mean, I'm telling you, this is the smoothest Ripmo I've ever ridden. The rear end is very, very good. I think a lot of guys are going to be stuck trying to decide between the Ripley and the Ripmo because the Ripley is so good in terms of handling this mid-travel, longer travel trail bike category. I think between the two, for me personally, I think I like the Ripmo a little better. I like that just little bit extra squish because they kind of climb about the same. But I'll be interested to try this as a mullet and put that on the back. On my long-term review, I probably have a little over 100 miles on this now. And once I get this up to 250 or 300 miles, we'll do a long-term review, and I'll try it with that mixed wheel mullet out back. I think most people are going to ride this as a 29er anyway. In my mind, that's what the Ripmo is a 29er. This one weighs a little over 29 pounds. It's like 29 pounds, 1 ounce actually, which is pretty lightweight for what it is. Obviously, as you guys all know, it has the in-frame storage now, which is, that's something. It's not something I will use really, but I know a lot of people really want it. The bike got a little bit heavier than the previous Ripmo. I'm thinking previous, like with the previous one with the 36 and the Float X or the DPX2 shock. I think it was a smart move for Ibis to go with the 36 and this shock. That's how I always built mine up. I never rode the Ripmo, the ones that I owned, with a 38 in the X2. It just wasn't appealing to me at all. It kind of took away from the character of the Ripmo. This bike is still zippy and fun for the category, this kind of longer mid-travel to long travel trail bike. And fun to jump on and play around on. I mean, I really felt comfortable today. Well-balanced bike. I felt really at home on this bike today. It was really, really nice. I don't know that I'm going to sell my SB 140 right away. I'm going to ride them back to back a couple more times and kind of see which one I like better. But for sure, hands down, best Ripmo ever, this third generation. Leave a comment in the comment section down below or a question. I'm pretty good about answering those for about a week after the video is published. And it's a great time to be a mountain biker, man. These bike companies just keep engineering better and better and better bikes. This one got a little heavier, which I was a little disappointed in, but it's a trail bike. It's not that big of a deal. And people are going to have a hard time deciding between the Ripley and the Ripmo now, because that Ripley is really good at filling this kind of mid-travel trail bike role. It's not that zippy little sporty light bike anymore. It's kind of this trail bike now. And so, which is great for the consumer. We have more options now. I think a lot of people will probably end up on that Ripley actually, just because it is so good, you know, in this category. If you don't need that really high top end speed. This purple kind of color, this matte purple, it's kind of dusty right now, but it's really cool looking. It also comes in like that kind of silvery green looking color, greenish color. Anyway, great time to be a mountain biker. Call the guys over at Salt Cycles. They support me and my channel. They make videos like this possible. Without them, I couldn't produce videos like this and publish this type of content. So if you're looking for a Ripmo, be sure to reach out to them. And they are so good about custom building a bike for you. So if you order the XT, but you still want to get some carbon cranks, well, they'll give you, you know, store credit or whatever, and make it possible for you to just easily upgrade carbon cranks or a different bar or whatever you want to do. Their wheels are incredible. These carbon wheels are awesome. Anyway, we'll see you in the comment section down below. I'm trying to think if there's any more little takeaways. I mean, it's so smooth. It doesn't get hung up on anything, but it still pumps really well. I talk about that in the riding portion of this video. The bike still pumps really well and it feels zippy for such a long travel bike. Really cool. I'm gonna keep riding this back to back with the Ripley and let you know what I think. For right now, I think I would probably choose this because I have a short travel, kind of more cross-country bike at the time. But if I was gonna do just one, I think I'd probably do that Ripley for sure over this one. I don't know, pretty cool bike. All right, the new V3 Ripmo has for some reason become like this crazy buttery smooth rear end. The rear travel feels like so buttery. I mean, it's still very supportive like the Ripmo has always been, but it feels maybe like a little deeper and just buttery smooth over like all the choppy little small choppy sections. It's crazy. Okay, this is a good section to see how the bike pumps in and out all these corners. Sometimes you can lose that pumping, you know, going to a longer travel, 150 mil, 160 fork, you lose that kind of blue trail. We're on a blue trail right now. That kind of pumping value. And the Ripmo doesn't feel like too much of a bike. It feels fun. More pumping. Yeah, that's great. Wow, so fun.